Hi everyone, Indes here. Are you tired of being smashed in PvP to feeling like you cannot get the wins that you deserve? Doesn't matter if you're a free-to-play player or a spender, this emotion is very common in most Diablo Immortal players. So I'm here to tell you that even if you are just starting the game, you're like 900 resonance, you can still be in the top leaderboard of your server. Right now, I got 70% win rate on the leaderboard. I have a very good advantage over like the second place. And yes, I have put at the time because I really enjoy to do the PvP, even though I'm a low reso free-to-play player. And you guys may think, man, like this guy is sick. Like what is he doing? Well, one of the biggest mistakes that I see is people only focus on the reso, and yet the right way to build your character for PvP involves all these things. And that's why I prepared for you guys today what I call the ultimate PvP guide. It is the bundle of all the knowledge that I learned over the past months that I've been playing. And I know the disadvantage that there is to play on a pay-to-win game. And I know that I'm never gonna beat a whale like Bull, for example. However, it doesn't matter to me because I get the satisfaction of being free to play, building my character, and taking advantage of all the mechanics that exist inside the game. And a lot of like hidden information and details that only like the top players know and they don't tell you. But today I'm here to tell you, I'm here to share all the information. And I promise you, if you do these adjustments on your character, right after you can go into a BG and you're gonna perform so much better. You're gonna be way stronger than you are currently, and I can't wait to see you guys just killing it, having the highest scores you can have, having the highest win rate you ever had, and hopefully, why not also reach to rank 1 on your server. So let's start about the big elephant in the room, matchmaking, the thing that if you go to Reddit, everyone is complaining, the thing that, oh my god, my reso is so bad, why I'm always be matching with the whales, why I'm not performing like this or like that. So let me explain you for my understanding and my personal experience with the matchmaking, how it is. So 50% of the times, while you're still climbing until legend, you're gonna be matched with the players with the similar power as yours. So if you do everything that I will tell you next on these bullet points correctly, you're gonna destroy. You're just gonna dominate your battlegrounds. You're gonna cruise until you get to legend. And the other 50% of the matches, you're gonna be matched with the people with a higher resin than you. Also be aware there is some people doing smurfing because they just wanna go from bronze to legend like very quickly. But after you get to legend, the rules, they change. So if we go here to the battleground and we click here, there's this yellow text that pretty much will tell you that after you reach legend, the matchmaking will become harder for you, but especially after you get 3,500 rating, then your reso doesn't matter. You're gonna be matched with any reso possible because you are just considered a super high rating player. So for example, for me, I used to have 75% win rate, but now after 300 and 500 rating, I keep getting matched with a lot of whales, so that decreased a bit, but still doesn't stop me to climb. So the best way that you can go and proceed to have fun, even in legend rating as a free-to-play player with low reso, it is to accept the fact that a lot of games that you're gonna have are gonna be, if not all games are gonna be against whales, but it doesn't mean that you cannot have an impact. And that's the second point that I wanna speak. It is impact in BGs, and I see a lot of players that they measure their impact according to the amount of kills they have, and yet they might lose the BGs, and then they are like, oh my god, I got MVP for the past 5 matches and yet I lost all of them. How is this possible? My team is trash, blah blah. You know it, I know it, everyone knows it, that this is most likely the mindset that a lot of people have, and I feel like the impact inside the game should be measured in a different way, and it's based on your role. There are several roles that each class can provide inside the game. So for example, if you are a Tempest, yes, go for the kills, go for the backline, but don't keep killing them on the spawn while the rest of the team is pushing the idol. Don't do that. Go help your team, go defend, or go attack, whatever it is. If you're a barbarian, your best role it is to play around the idol. So please identify what is your role. Are you a support? Are you a backliner? Are you a tank? What are you inside the BGs? And play the BGs accordingly to your role. So now let's talk about classes. Classes, it is a hot topic. Right now, the best classes are Tempest and Barbarian. But next month or next patch, maybe it can be Demon Hunter. Maybe it can be even Monk. Who knows? However, I will say that if you want to be at the top as a free-to-play player, I will highly suggest you and recommend you to play a class like, for example, Barbarian, where you have the Undying Rage. If you don't know what the Undying Rage, it is a buff that Barbarians have that allow us to stay alive, even though as a free-to-play player, I don't have a lot of HP. So why am I playing Barbarian? Well, not only is a badass class in my opinion, I love Barbarian, but I tried all of them. But for my lower Reso, I have to be honest with myself that if I go Tempest or Demon Hunter, a carry class, I'm not gonna have the same impact as someone with 3, 4, 5,000 rating on the backline where they just gonna smash everyone and do a lot of damage. I don't have that power. So even though I could go and have fun as playing as Tempest, which I might, but my expectations will drop way lower, and I will not expect for me to reach this high of a rating as I did with the Barbarian, just because Barbarian allows for low reso players to survive for way longer, even against whales. And that's where my low res butt can still manage to have impact inside the BGs and be useful as best as I can, as the best of my ability. I'm there to be a support barb, I'm there to dispel the Undying Rage, I'm there to push the idol while I let the high reso players from my team get the kills, and that is my role. I'm there to push the idol, I'm there to support my backline, my Demon Hunters, my Wizards, and I'm there to win the game. So to finish the classes, you can definitely play whatever you want. I'm just trying to help you understand that certain classes can be more beneficial for low reso and other classes can be higher beneficial for high reso. So now moving on to the meta PvP builds. Well, these ones keep changing. The best way that you can actually go and keep update, it is to actually just go to the BG leaderboard and just try to inspect other players around the PvP time. What build are they using? For example, George is here. Yeah, he's now using the metal build. We have here Chomba. He's probably using a PvE build right now. We also got here Spike. Oh my god, he's playing our one-shot Oda build? Damn, boy. Spike, I hope you're killing it. I hope you're getting those one-shots. For me, this build works really well. I usually tend to switch between the hammer and the demo shout. Of course, if you already play Barbarian, you're tired of seeing this build. It is Spartax. We get the chains with the pants and the chest. We have the shield shoulders. And we have here the Lion's Mane for the demoralized cooldown reduction. Then we have Falling Thunder to boost our damage. Then we have the Bird Breaker, which is just like so OP. And this is like what I'm telling you about the meta change. Before the patch, it used to be the Thunder Legacy, which is an instance that puts fire around your Wrath of Berserker. But now, this one got boosted, does more damage, is actually being insane. So, people are replacing and they are adapting to the meta. So, this is what you actually have to do. It is, as the season keeps progressing, as more new instances come to the game, people will keep testing new builds, new ways of playing. You also should. So don't be only a meta slave. Try to also have some fun. But of course, that the meta build, it is called meta for a reason. Because if you play the meta, most probably you're gonna have the highest impact. Because having an example, I love my Oda build, but it has a big downside that I don't have Spartax. And Spartax, what it does, it just removes all the beneficial effects from skills. So, Undying Rage, Bubbles, they are key to dispel in the BGs, especially when I'm playing against whales, and it feels so good to dispel those Undying Rage from those big whales. So, PvP nerf. A few beginners, they don't know this. But the stats that you see here, they will not be the same as they are on the battleground. And the way you can test your skills, your builds, as they're gonna perform into the battleground, all you need to do is to go to the right of exile. So for immortals, I have to go here. For shadows, you go to the same portal that you have the shadow ward. So you do here, right practice, you enter the battleground. And now if you're gonna inspect your own character, you will see that you are like much weaker. So right now, instead of, for example, 15% crit that I had outside of the BGs, I only have 6%. And there are a lot of like small nerfs, like to attack speed, to crit damage, to cooldown reduction. So all these stats are pretty much nerfed, which makes a huge impact for your character. So please have this in mind, that doesn't matter if you have like 30 or 40% crit outside of the BG, whenever you go inside, you will have a minus 66% nerf on your substats. So now, combat rating. I'm gonna demystify a myth that has been created, I don't know why. Combat rating matters in PvP. I've seen so many free-to-play players, young players to the game saying, oh, but combat rating doesn't matter. All it matters is to have the fortitude and the willpower. No, you gotta have high combat rating. Why? Because here's more or less how it works. So if you are way below the combat rating of the other player, for example, let's imagine you have 1000 less combat rating. You're gonna take 10 or 11% more damage, and you're gonna deal 10 to 11% less damage to the person that you're fighting with. So, in the reverse, if you have the highest combat rating possible, whenever you're gonna go to the BGs and you're gonna play against players with similar stats as you, this is where it starts to matter. Because me, as a free-to-play player, having 39.7 rating at this stage of the game, with mainly 1 and 2 star gems at rank 5, and then I have a Storm Vault at rank 1 and a Bloodsoaked Jade at rank 2. So these are not giving me a lot of combat rating. If you see, most of my power doesn't come from the gems. So you may ask, where does it come from? Well, if you see, all my gear when I'm doing PvP has around 2000 rating. If you watch this video in the future, it means that this is almost the perfect item I can have in this patch. And that's what you should try to accomplish, to have. It is at least a triple stats with 2 substats, or if you're lucky enough, you get a triple stats with triple substats with triple sockets, which this is very rare, is very hard to get, and it requires a lot of grind, of course. But because I have all this gear with 2000 rating, it gives me such a big advantage when I go into the BG against someone that is a lot of times even with a higher reso than me. I can kill players with around 3, sometimes 4000 reso. Yes, they put up a fight, of course, but I can still kill them, which is pretty fantastic. So please don't slack on your combat rating. It is very important. So now let's talk about the green sets. This will highly depend on your class, but one thing is for sure, that I can guarantee you that right now, the most overpowered set in the game when it comes to PvP is having 4 pieces graces with a dot build. It is so annoying to play with. Why? Because when you leave the dots and they run away and they're trying to heal themselves, you're gonna break the bandage. So they cannot heal themselves, or a lot of times they will just die with the dots and the damage. So right now, 4 pieces grace, it is my high recommendation, especially if you're a free-to-play player. And for the rest, you can check with your class. It can be a 4 pieces V2s. It can be 4 pieces augments that add a burning effect on the target. You just gotta see whatever the high rating players are doing. Check the playstyle. If you like it, go for it. There is some priorities that you wanna try to get before you try to get your perfect item. So see this as a ladder. So first, you want to get an item that has the set bonus that you need. Then, you want to have an item that has the set bonus and the right sockets. And why are the sockets so important? Because again, normal gems are the ones that's going to give you a big boost on your secondaries. For example, here, rank 6 Sapphire is going to give you 136 armor penetration, which is insane. The third stage, it is to get the same bonus, right number of sockets, and Fortitude and Willpower. Just double stats. If you have that, it is already a great piece for PvP. You can keep it. I think I still have one. Yeah, for example, here. I got still this piece, but the issue, it is not 2000. So I'm losing combat rating here. But since I'm already like so high, I don't think it will really matter. I'm already actually farming Inferno 3. That's what I've been doing because I don't think it will actually really matter if I get these 2000 or not at this stage. So after you got a piece like this, Fortitude, Willpower, double substats with the socket you want, you now want to try to roll for the big one. For the triple stats with 2 substats with the 3 sockets. For example, in the case of the bracelets. If you get this with the right substats, Fortitude, Willpower, and Vitality or Strength, you are done with this item. Okay? Yes, some people are crazy and they go for the triple. Triple, in my opinion, is completely unnecessary. It is going to be a waste of time. If you get it, you get it. If you don't worry about it. It is 20 combat rating. Yes, if you multiply by 8, it is 160 combat rating that you lose. But man, the hours that's going to require you to have like perfect pieces all the time. So for example, this belt, right? It is a perfect piece, but only 2 sockets. But the only reason why I'm using it, it is because the red sockets are pretty much useless. Okay? Like the damage that this adds, it is useless. Okay? 140 damage, it is nothing whenever I have almost like 20,000 damage. But if it was a piece like the boots, where I have blue sockets, I will never have a piece that it doesn't have the 3 blue sockets or the blue sockets on the bracelets or the necklace, because blue sockets are the most important thing. You also get it on your rings, especially if you're using burst, but because I'm using a dot build, I go with the yellow because I want to increase a bit more my potency because it's not that high. So just have in mind, this will require you to farm for a lot of hours dungeons to manage to get this, but there is an easy way to get it. And the way you do it, it is not only you can get lucky while farming the dungeons, but also you go to here in the West Marsh and you do set crafting, and then you select the difficulty you want. So right now I'm already in Inferno 3. I got 147. And I can go here and I can select whatever I want. For example, I can do a Grace, or I can do the Vitus, or whatever. You select whatever you want, and then you just use the Wisps. You craft them, and you pray that you're gonna have the RNGesus on your side to get that perfect piece. So now, secondaries. This is the most important part of the video. As a free-to-play player, I hear people say you have to sell your unbound normal gems. And I tell you, no, don't, never sell your gems, man. We know why? Because otherwise, you're never gonna do any damage. You're never gonna be able to catch up. You're never gonna be able to do anything when it comes to PvP because you're gonna be so far behind. There are other ways to make plat. And yes, it will be slower because you're keeping these gems and probably is bringing a lot of plat. And then you're using that plat to buy legendary gems to increase your Reso. And there is a reason why I didn't even put Reso here. Because in my opinion, yes, Reso, it is an important stat. But I feel like everyone is so focused on the Reso and on the legendary gems that everyone forgets everything else. And the way to be strong, it is actually to neglect your Reso when you're starting the game, focusing on improving your secondary stats, and then build up from there. And don't worry that I'm gonna show you how can you optimize to get the best damage and secondaries possible that you can currently on the game for PvP. So if you see here, I've been playing for 6 months and I already got 3.2k armor pen. I got 3k armor, and these ones, they are decent. They are completely fine. And how did I achieve this even if I've been playing for 6 months? It is because I am not selling any of my gems, and all my gear always has Fortitude and Willpower, and then something else, Strength or Vitality. That's how I do. Because the way you get stronger in PvP, it is by stacking Fortitude. Because Fortitude will increase your armor and your armor penetration. And what does Willpower do? Increase your potency and your resistance. And why am I not focused on Vitality or Strength? Because whenever you again go to the PvP, if you remember the PvP nerf, Vitality and Strength are nerfed. So you may ask, okay, so isn't better to just go with a piece with only Fortitude and Willpower? I'll say yes if you don't have any other choice, but if you have a triple stats like this one with Fortitude, Willpower, and Strength, you're gonna get a lot more combat rating. Because if you have 2 stats, even if you have 2 substats, probably this item will be around like less 40 or 60 combat rating. And if you multiply those 40 or 60 combat rating through all the pieces of your gear, even though you're gonna have a lot more armor penetration, you will always be in disadvantage when it comes to the combat rating, and then you're gonna take 10% more damage and you're gonna do 10% less damage. So in my opinion, it is not worth it. Always go with the triple stat item because it has higher combat rating. So I'm going to explain to you now a bit in more detail so you can understand why are the secondaries so important. So armor and armor penetration, these two go hand to hand the same way as potency and resistance. So the way it works, it is like this. If your armor penetration is higher than his armor, you're gonna do more critical hit damage to him. If it is lower, you're gonna do 0. So that's why you see that a lot of whales, because they have a lot of armor penetration, whenever they go to you and they start hitting you, not only they have more CR, not only they have the damage of players, they have 50% more critical damage on you. So they are able to do tons of damage. And the other way around, right? If you go to a newbie player that, for example, only has like 2,000 armor pen and you got 3,000 armor, it's not gonna do almost any damage to you, even if it crits. That's why Fortitude, it is the most important stat to have in the game. So the same goes for potency and resistance. So if I have a very high resistance and you put a dot or a slow on me, that dot or slow will last way less time, and the other way around. Why a lot of necromancers, they use builds with only potency, and why it is so important to have potency when you're playing with dots is because if you have higher potency and they have lower resistance, your dots will last way longer, which you are going to be able to do more damage because instead of staying for 6 seconds, they will stay, for example, for 9 or 10 seconds on the target, and more seconds, more grace procs, more chances of you just killing it. Now for the PvP substats. There are a few substats that are incredibly powerful when it comes to PvP, and they are not nerfed. As you guys saw, crit damage and all these things are nerfed when I go into PvP, but stats like damage increased to players or damage taken by players is reduced. These stats aren't nerfed. So if you see, for example, my items, I got here 1.5% less damage from players, 2% less damage from players, 1.5% less damage from players, more 2% less damage from players. So just in these items, I take almost less 10% damage just by having the right substats. So since we're here, let's talk about the reforge sets for PvP. This will also depend on your character. However, these reforge sets are very powerful, especially if you want to do damage and be impactful on the BG. So for me, because I'm a barbarian and I got the Undying Rage, I don't need to go like full tanking. I always rely on my Survivor, Gladiator, and Undying Rage to stay alive. And then all I want to do is to be able to do the maximum damage that I can when I'm inside the idol so I can protect it. So Reforge sets. Here we have Vengeance. Your primary attacks have 2% chance to increase all damage you deal by 100% for 1 second. This is very, very powerful. Sometimes out of the blue, you just do like this instant burst, and then the guy is like disappeared. It is incredible. It is incredible to see. For the best Reforge set bonus at this moment, in my opinion, and also based on the research that I did from the biggest PvP players in other servers, damage to shielded enemies. This is super important because right now everyone has a shield and there are a lot of Tempests on the BGs. Damage to enemies suffering loss of control increased. What is loss of control? Is, for example, a slow or a stun or the freeze or the chill. Anything that is gonna make them lose of control, you're gonna do 4% more damage. Then we got here, damage to players increased 1.5%. And also, even though this stat, it is nerfed, it is still super, super important because beneficial effects, it is what makes your legendary gems, buffs stay for longer, your Undying Rage, your bubble, your shields, everything you get that is beneficial on your character, it will extend. Even though will be nerfed by 66%, it is still worth it to take in every piece. So for the last Reforge bonus, we take damage taken from players reduced by 1%. And this can go to 1.5%. But even if you just get a 1% roll, if you get in all 8 pieces, you take 8% less damage. So it doesn't feel like it is a lot, singularity, but whenever you start to adding up all these multipliers of damage done to player, damage reduced, that's how you start to survive and not get as one-shotted as you used to be. That's also when you start doing a lot of damage, numbers that you haven't seen before, like the one-shot hammer build that I made. So if you want to go and focus on PvP, I will highly advise you to take these 5 slots. But if you're just starting the game, I will say to you, please delay this to focus on building first your PvE Reforge sets, because 90% of the time you are doing PvE, especially until like you're very late in the game. And now you can even come to Westmarch. On the blacksmith, click on service, go to Reforge, and I see that a few players or they forgot about it or they still don't know, but you can have 2 loadouts here. So for example, this is my PvE and this is my PvP set. So please take advantage of like this small advantage, because when you sum up everything, you're gonna make a huge difference. Let's talk now about cursed gear. We're already here in the blacksmith, so we just go here, scroll down, you have cursed purifying. Another thing that I see that a lot of players, they don't take advantage. Right now, cursed gear is in every gear possibly imagine. So there is no excuse for you guys to not have your 6 pieces set with another 2 bonus. So for barber, of course, the way you want to go, because I use primary, a lot of times I use 2 pieces of lashed. It's gonna trigger every 30 seconds, and I got 6 pieces of nettled, pretty much gonna give me an extra shield, and it's gonna proc every 60 seconds, which it is pretty nice. Depending on your class, your curse properties may change. For example, I know that for Demon Hunter, there is one that leaves a flame trail on the floor that if you go on top, you're also gonna get immobilized, which is against melee classes, it is pretty good. So please always go and inspect the people that are at the top in the leaderboard and check also these details. Don't just check the ensigns and everything is fine. No, go check the Reforge, go check the curses, go check the sets, go check the substats. Like, try to analyze and understand clearly how do they build their character. Now we have a hot topic, legendary gems. As you guys know, for me, I mainly focus on getting the rank 5 to unlock the Awaken properties. I focus on making a build based on dots to proc my grace set, and that's pretty much it. So when it comes to building your character, you can build your character in 3 ways. You have burst damage that you mainly focus on gems that is gonna increase your damage like output like right away. For example, for Strife Demon Hunter, that's pretty powerful because all they do is they wanna go into you, spin for 2 seconds, and you're dead. So they don't need the dots for anything. Second way that you can build your character, it is as a dots character, which in my opinion, it is the best for free-to-play player. And the third one, it is the tanky build that, in my opinion, it is also very free-to-play player friendly, but I want to do some damage also. So please select which of the 3 type of playstyle do you want to play, which type does it fit your build that you're playing or the meta that you're playing right now, and build your legendary gems around the playstyle you want. So because I said that I play with dots, I got 1 dot here, I got 2 dots here. I also got the mixer elixir that is gonna prolong the duration of my dots. I use Stormvolt because whenever it procs, there's that small storm that starts chasing players into the BGs, and if you get hit by it, again, you're gonna get more dots on top of you, and overall it is a very good gem to play with. I also use Paragon's Fang because I have so many dots and I do a lot of ticks very quickly, so these will give me instant 13% damage. Pain Clasp is gonna give me 13% more damage if I have a dot on the target. And here, you guys may think that I use Mother's Lament, but no, because again, I'm building as dot damage, I'm not building as burst. I don't need a lot of crit, so I use Ignis Scorn, because whenever the gem explodes, every enemy that is around the target that I exploded is gonna get the dots, and that's how I managed to do a lot of damage, because I play a lot around the idol when there is like a big number of players at the same time in the same spot. So as you can see, this is a pretty good free-to-play player build for dots. It does a lot of damage together with the grace, but you need to have your 4 pieces grace. Without this build is not gonna do any damage, because most of your damage will come from having all these dots proccing the grace. Okay, please have this in mind, because I had a friend, he was playing dots, but then he was like, hey, I don't do any damage. And I said, of course, Ambas, you're not using the 4 pieces grace. How you want to do damage? Understand what is the build. Builds with dots, they are pretty much required to have grace set. So Awaken gems and why they are so important. I've seen a few players that they still don't understand what does it do, but I'm going to explain very easily. So if you level up a gem to rank 5 and you awaken the slot, you're going to be able to have an extra bonus on top of the bonus that you already have on your answers. So this text in orange, it is the answers, but this text in green, it is the awaken slot. And this bonus, it is not nerfed. It is actually 10%. 10% here. Then I have 10% here. Cooldown reduction on the moralized, and inside the BGs, I have minus 20% cooldown reduction. It is insane. It makes a huge difference. The same way as here on my Wrath of Berserker, I got here cooldown reduction 10%. Then I got here cooldown reduction 10%. And I got here cooldown reduction 10%. I got minus 30% cooldown on my Wrath of Berserker. That's why I can always be transformed. Almost 100% uptime inside the BG. So this is why, please, to free-to-play players, do not equip yourself with only 5-star gems with rank 1, 2, 3, or 4, because you will be losing so much power, so much cooldown, so much damage, but especially the cooldown. Because in my opinion, the cooldown, for me, it is more important. And that's why I'm using the Blood-Soaked Jade on this slot. So if you see here, my Lacerate has the normal bonus and it has no Awaken, because I'm using a Blood-Soaked Jade rank 2. But imagine I replace with a Viper's Bite. Now my Lacerate will do 10% more damage. So now you may be asking, oh, Indes, I also got my gems at rank 5, but I don't have these Awaken slots. How do I do? It is very simple. You have next to the Blacksmith and West March, this guy, you go to the shop, and on the Reforge stones, you're gonna scroll down, and right here, you can buy these Dawning Echoes for 10k plat and or 1000 orbs. Since I'm a free-to-play player, well, I had to spend and save 80,000 plat. Many of you may prefer to buy a legendary gem, which in my opinion, it is a huge mistake. Go with this main top priority, build some 1 and 2 stars rank 5 gems, and then go to the jeweler's shop, here to the master jeweler, gem resonance, and you're gonna be able to unlock your slots as long as you have a rank 5 gem inside. This is so important, and if you don't have this, you are losing so much power inside the BGs. But we don't stop there, because whenever you get to the rank 5, you get access to the gem resonance. And this is another side that, while a lot of players have their eyes on these shiny 5-star gems that you probably never gonna have, or maybe in 1 or 2 years you're gonna have it at rank 5, I have my eyes on trying to maximize my resonance and my power via this type of bonus. So if you see here, if I get Mother's Lament to rank 9, I will unlock all these 3 slots. And if inside these 3 slots, I put a Chain Death rank 10, another rank 10 here, and another rank 10 here, I will be able to unlock these 3 bonus. 3% more damage on your primary attack, 2% on your skill damage, and damage done increased by 1% per party member. And remember, whenever you are inside a BG, you're most of the times, especially if you play around the idol, you're surrounded by players. So all these increments are so important. And I can't emphasize enough that you may look at these 3% here and say, yeah, that's not a big deal. But you're not thinking that this is just in 1 gem. You got 8 gems to work on this bonus. And now I hope that you start understanding that whenever you have the combat rating and you get 10% more damage over the other player, then you get your secondaries, which they gonna increase your crit damage that you do, or the duration of your dots. And you also got your Reforge sets with all of these damage to players. And you also got your curse properties all nice and done. All these things, they keep stacking up on each other. And it's how you're gonna start from going to a newbie to someone that actually has an impact inside the BGs, even as a free-to-play. So now, very quickly, runes. Well, for me, I got lucky to farm all these runes. They were all bounded runes, so the only way I could do it is to keep them. All the other runes, and that's how I do the majority of my plat. You may look at here, and I saw a few comments saying, "Oh, it is impossible for him to be free-to-play player because he get 59,000 plat. That's just impossible." No, jackass, it is not impossible. You're just a noob. During the release of the runes, it was such a good time to make free plat. Of course, you had to get lucky, but even these great gems, they were selling for thousands of plats, at least on my server. The blue gems, same. Then you had the gold gems, same. And I got to farm them. I got to sell them. And every time they are unbound, I always sell them, except if they are gray. Gray, nobody buys these, but I still sell my blue ones. It gives me 900 plat. If I get a gold one, I sell it. I got lucky, and that's why I got a lot of plat right now. I got lucky to get an orange legendary rune that dropped, and that boosted a lot of my plat. So that's a way that you can take advantage, and there are more ways, and maybe I do a video in the future about how to farm plat in the best way possible. But when it comes to runes, well, the higher the color, the better it is. But most important ones, you got tiered, which is going to increase your beneficial effect, and again, decrease your damage while moving, attack speed, which is a great rune. And the second one, Fa, which your primary attack, especially if you're a primary attack class, like myself as a barb, it has a chance to decrease the attack and the movement speed by 20%. This one, it is huge. Huge, huge, huge. So these two gems for me in a PvP setting, they are the best. The rest, it is a nice to have and is not a must have. So now next we have Paragon. But if you're still here, just type cheese in the comments. I want to know how many of you, they actually take serious to become the best of the best in PvP. Because I know this is a long video. I could have made like 10 videos out of this, but I just think that compiling everything into an ultimate guide, it is the best way for you guys to, from the beginning to the end of the video, go from normal guy to a god. That's my goal. So I want to thank you for being here, and let's keep going. This one, it is pretty straightforward. Again, in the past, people used to use the brawler. Please only use the brawler if you're a whale or you got a lot of resonance. Why? Because resonance is going to increase your base stats like damage and your life. So if you're a whale, you're going to have 400 or 500,000 HP, which is going to make your shields massive. But if you're a free-to-play player like myself and you got a joke of a HP, you don't care about that. All you care is to go with the gladiator. Cheat that. Insane. It's gonna make you win games. You're gonna die. You have an extra life. Then you have uncontrollable. Since I'm a melee character, I'm a barb. It is awesome, so I don't get freeze. Then here, when I'm fighting a player, I do more damage. I receive less damage. And here, after I defeat one player, I get an increase for 10 seconds of 12% more damage and 11% less damage taken, which if you add up with the reforge damage reduce and the set substats with damage reduce, you can see how these multipliers, they keep stacking up, hopefully. And again, for each party member within 15 yards of you get reduced damage taken by 2.5% by each member. So this is very important, especially for melee classes that play around the idol. And there are other paragons that maybe be interested, for example, for Tempest, Harbinger. But overall, if you just want to go with a very good standard one, Gladiator is the way to go. Hey, post-editing index right here. I just noticed while editing the video that I missed 3 components. It's gonna talk about the Horadim, the badges, and the PvP tower. So very quickly, why is so important? The Horadim, I see so many people using the keys and they open the chests, and whenever they're gonna level up, they start leveling up things like your damage, resistance, your life. And don't do none of that. There is only and only until the end of time 3 slots you actually want to keep leveling up. The first is going to be the red vessel, which is going to give you armor pen, then the yellow, which is going to give you armor, and then we have the purple, which is going to give you armor pen and armor. If you see my stats right here, I got armor and armor pen almost with the 600. I think they are level what, 22, and the rest is like level 1. Okay, I didn't even level them up. I think I leveled this one because I was right in the beginning of the game. I didn't know what I was doing. Then the rest, it is only rank 1 or 2. So please have in mind, if you guys want to have like high armor and armor pen, just focus on these 3. This is like such a cheat code because you can't restart these. You can never reset these unless in the future Blizzard changed these, but so far you can't. So even if you did spend some points in other vessel slots, it doesn't matter. From now on, only focus on red, yellow, and purple. Also, very quickly, try to join a clan that it has a cursed towers. So what are these towers? These towers are going to give you some bonus. Mainly for the PvP, this is so important because it's going to give you 10% more life inside the BGs. And that's just huge. It's just like whenever you go into the BG, you got, for me, I go with the what, 20, 30,000 more HP. And as you keep scaling your character, this buff will be even stronger. So have this in mind. Try to join to a clan that at least has this one. It is super useful and it's going to make you more powerful. And since we're talking about clans and activities and shadows, immortals, and all these things, there are these cycles into the game where immortals, they take control of the game. For example, right now I'm an immortal, but in the past I was in the shadow clan. So I know that this part can be a bit complicated if you start in the game, but in general, every 5 to 6 weeks, there's gonna be a new cycle. And during that cycle, whenever it ends, you get a badge. And the badge will reflect the amount of activity, loyalty, participation, impact that you are having during this cycle. So doing things like Battlegrounds, participating in on the vault, doing the Rite of Exile, doing the Shadow Wars, all these things, they will contribute into have at the end of the cycle a better percentage into your badge. So for example, I have 8%. Here I have another 8%. I don't know why I still didn't figure out how to actually go and do the 12%. And I got a 2% one because this was like right in the beginning of the game. I was still leveling up while this cycle was going on. But whenever I lose my immortal status, this one is going to be removed, this 2%. And hopefully I'm going to replace this with a 12% badge, which is going to give me a boost of 10% life and damage. So the maximum you can have if you have all the badges at 12%, which it is not easy because it requires a lot of dedication. However, if you do it, you can have up to 36% boost into your life and damage. And that's another way that whales, which usually they are from really good clans, they can get a lot of free power just by playing the game in a good guild. Try to join the best clan as you can. If you're a shadow, try to look at like the top 10 and maybe you're gonna get yourself a spot there because over time it will make a huge difference. And now, Illiquity, this one, it is so tricky. I don't see a lot of players doing this one, but it is such a great way to boost your secondaries. So if you guys remember, and you see here my stats, I got 12,000 Fortitude, 10, almost 11,000 willpower, and that's why I managed to boost my secondaries as they are right now. But it's not only because of the gear, it is because when I go here to my Illiquity, so here is the only exception from the rule of triple stats are better because of combat rating, just because the difference between a triple stat and a double stat demonic remain, it is not much. It is probably like 5% CR that you lose in 5, so you're gonna lose what, 25, maybe 30 CR. It is not a big deal. So here you always want to go with Fortitude and willpower only. Unfortunately, I've been so lucky on this one, man. It's been like months and I still didn't get a freaking Fortitude willpower on the arms. It is crazy. I don't know what's happening. Like the RNG here is crazy. So when I look at here, it just looks so bad because I could have like 1,000, but now I get like 800, 1,000, and 1,900. So Illiquity, if you see here also, please do your raids. So this is very important, not only to boost your secondary stats, but also to increase your combat rating. If you see here, I get 2,570 combat rating. This is a lot of combat rating. It takes time to build up on these. You got some catch-up mechanics, so don't worry about it. Now we got the warbands. If you don't have a warband, please do and do the raids with them. Two things are super important. Do your weekly warband activity. Do dungeons, do the raids, do the bounties, do those 3 activities. Max these each opportunity that you have because you have your ancestral tableau. And if you see here, it is giving me almost 300 willpower and fortitude, and more important, 1,425 combat rating. The other important thing when it comes to the warbands, it is your size. I already explained this on a previous guide of how can you get your level 30 gear as fast as you can. But having this protector room, it is essential, especially if you have a protector remnant like this one, which is going to give you a shield, or more important, and the best of all, Shepherd's Burden, which is going to increase your life by 6% and your size, which is gonna make you go and run faster by 15%. This was incredible, especially if you're a middle class, or even if you're not. You're gonna need movement speed. Movement speed, it is probably the highest of the highest priorities substats in the game when it comes to PvP. That is the main reason why I'm using the Bloodsoaked Jade. Of course I care about like the 10% more damage, of course, but more important, I'm looking for the movement speed of 10%. So for the last 2 points, now we have here familiars. I see so many people wasting money in trying to roll pets with better stats and savior and or a cat or etc. Listen to me. If you want to do PvP as a free-to-play player, all you need is a pet with savior. If you don't know what savior is, it is exactly as the name says. It is a life savior every 75 seconds. And originally, it is around 90 seconds, but the way you decrease this cooldown is by getting a legendary pet that has the highest resilience possible. So if I had a pet with 200 resilience, which they exist, but they are not for my pocket, my savior would proc every 60 seconds. And for the PvP, as a free-to-play player, low spender, that's all you need. Don't spend plat trying to roll. I see so many free-to-play players trying to get like the savior cat, and I just feel like it is a mistake, especially with the price that the pets are in these days, at least on my server. The best way you do, if you want to get like a good familiar with savior, if you're just starting and you don't have savior, select familiars here on the menu, go to the filter, select passive skills, scroll down and find savior. You select savior and you got here a pet, 20k. Sometimes you can find like pets that so people don't really know what savior is. So you know, newbies they just put like for 16k or sometimes 6k or 8k, or you know, like they just don't know. So you can come to the action house, and if you pay attention, you can actually snipe one. For mine, I think I made a good deal, man. I got mine for like 30k, and I'm super satisfied. I probably won't change this pet. I won't say ever, but I won't change anytime sooner. It is a great pet. It does what I need, and that's also all you need. So to end up this guide, I want to speak a bit about mindset when it comes to PvP. As a piece of advice, only focus on the things that you can control, such as these bullet points, such as improving your character, such as improving your playstyle, such as looking at your own self, reflect on things that you could have done better, and try to improve upon. I see so many players that they lose 2, 3, 4 matches in a row. They are seeing red, they blaming the whales, they blaming the matchmaking, and of course like those are problems, everyone knows. But if you play League of Legends ever in your life, you know that if you're pissed and you keep requeuing, you're gonna lose all the matches, because the first thing you're gonna do is start flaming in the chat, and yet you're flaming in the chat with a 0-10 in the bottom of the score list, right? So in those scenarios, I will just tell you, take a break. Stop queuing. Don't get into those mind games of like, I lose, so now I have to catch up. No. I will say I rarely lose more than 2 or 3 matches in a row. Very rarely 3. But if I do, I just take a break. I go downstairs, I drink some water, I stay a bit with my family, and then I just come back more fresh. Because I know that even I'm someone that doesn't allow these losses to affect me, I also get frustrated sometimes, you know. It is not fun to queue for 10 matches in a row against the biggest whales in Europe, right? And whenever you are at the rating that I am, the 4,200, right? That's all you get. So that's my best piece of advice. Focus on yourself. Focus on these things that you just learned today, and make yourself in the best shape possible so you can actually start kicking some ass. That's all I have to say for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good one. Peace.